I'm coming off as a big Someday hater. I think he's a
are.
really good player. I just don't think he's elite on the level that Impact is.
Hello and welcome to the dive season. I don't know if I just pulled the plug out of this thing.
I hope not.
Did we lose Kobe?
This thing is too far if it's down on the table, and
We're good.
I want.
They said you're good. Try it again.
Yeah, I got that. He put his thumbs up, Mark.
I'm
Great
helping.
intro.
It is season 7, episode 6.
Nailed it.
Hello and welcome to the dive, where we've got another new table.
Wow.
It comes with a giant poro. If you can't really tell what that is, those are
Yeah.
poro horns down there. Thank you again to Team Liquid for hosting us. I kind of miss it already.
Yeah, this is the third table in 3 weeks if you think about it.
Let's make it 4 for 4 next week. I wonder what we'll come into.
Yeah. Yeah,
It'll just be a Staples gray table.
that should be the new thing. Maybe we can get like a park bench.
Oh,
We should use outside. You're right.
Yeah.
bench with the boys. Let's get right into patch, because if we don't do patch right now, then we're gonna forget about it and we're not gonna do patch notes. And it's actually a really sick patch. 13.4 is out now. They've been playing it on it already. Champs Queue. It is gonna be this weekend in LCS. Aurelion Soul is enabled unless we have a disable at the last moment for bugs, which are very plentiful and
So
could
possible.
definitely could happen. But as of right now, it is enabled. I'm super hyped for it. Huhi told me that he would pick it as support Aurelion Soul. He guaranteed it to me, so I'm gonna hold him to that.
I think he's lying to you.
The majority of
Lie
what
detector
I'm-
detected. That was a lie.
So can I get another thumbs up if it's fine if I leave it down here?
It should be. I feel like they would tell you if there was
Let
a
me know
problem.
about that. The main things I'm excited for this patch are the nerfs to the demonic upper echelon of tank junglers, which have been just running solo queue, as well as running a lot of pro play. Not all of it, because a lot of pro play, everyone's still happy to play Wukong and Vi, and they will continue to be happy to play those champions. But bringing down specifically Amumu, Maokai, Udyr, and nerfing clear speed of demonic puts them in a much more balanced place for solo queue, opening up the area so that you get to play other junglers that you actually like.
They also took the AP ratio down slightly on your jungle pet. So
Yeah.
another thing, AP junglers are dead. Viego got buffed. Closer meta. 100 Thieves are going to rally.
AP jungler is definitely not dead. That
They're
nerf,
dead,
that nerf was like
and that
this.
buff was massive.
The nerf was like
a
this,
little
but-
bit more bonus AD on ultimate, and your Q can critically strike. Here we go, Kraken Slayer.
I was agreeing with closer meta though, because Lee Sin is back in as a
Lee Sin
flex
is-
pick for top and jungle, and now Viego gets a little bit of buff. I think that it's a cool way to buff him too. The execution damage for your ultimate is the fantasy that you want to live through when you're playing this champ.
Yeah, the Maokai changes felt like pretty heavy-handed to me. When I saw like how many different ways he was getting nerfed on this one patch, like he's been really strong for a long time.
I was like, good,
Yeah,
deeper, go harder.
I ban him a lot too because he's just annoying
Yeah.
to play against the saplings. But it was like they severely increased the cooldown on the E, then reduced the AP ratios, then reduced the base damages, then reduced the AP ratios on the brush sapling, then nerfed the Q,
Good.
then
Yeah.
nerfed the
No. The Q is actually buffed a little bit.
Oh, was it?
compensation buff. The Q is
Okay.
a buff.
Okay, my mistake.
Yeah. But they should have done it as a nerf.
There you go. And then demonic embrace as well. I remember Freak was actually telling me I think he was doing these changes, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna nerf this and this," and I was like, "Whoa!" Like I was
Good.
kind of expecting like just them cool down. Or
That's
maybe
my
one
boy
or
right there.
But Maokai seems pretty dead. So those changes seem quite big to me.
What's funny is he's actually still okay. It was a almost 4% nerf. He's still at 51%. So it takes a lot to chop that tree down. That's why I feel like you can go harder. And keep in mind, win percents are not everything. So a certain portion of this win percentage that is still 51%, what's included in that is people still building AP Maokai, which got nerfed way more than just building
Maokai.
tank Maokai.
Yeah.
So when you're looking at win rates, you always have to think about where this data comes from, what contributes to that.
Yeah.
And so just go tank Maokai. He's actually completely fine, not dead at all.
I feel like you should just play Zac or something then, because I feel like Zac is actually quite strong. I feel like there's some other tanks that are like even like Jarvan or something.
They're definitely comparable. I am pretty strong that Maokai has survived and is super fine.
Yeah, I guess
I think he just contributes a lot more in pro play in terms of like the other utility that he brings, whereas Zach doesn't have any way to really contribute other than jumping in, which is he's insane at and a great team fighter. But
really good ganking angles.
yeah, but like it's all like engage related things,
Yeah.
whereas Maokai brings a lot more to the table. A lot of safe engages where you're like, I'm gonna ult you off the objective, back up, great, and then
Yep.
you can just more playmaking options. But I am overall excited to see hopefully some more other champions move into the jungle now.
I've got a proposition for some dark tech, unless you want to go for something.
Oh, I was just gonna keep talking about this for a second, but like, I mean, you go ahead.
Speaking of champions coming in, Malphite got a really big buff for the W, which they're 100% just thinking about top lane. But whenever you buff cooldowns for abilities, there should be a big alarm that goes off that sounds, "Can you jungle this champion?" Because that's what it's all about for clear speed is your basic ability cooldowns. They buff the damage as well as basic ability cooldowns for the W, which is also your auto attack reset. And Maokai jungle way back season 1 used to actually be very good. And if they're combining this with nerfing early champion kill experience, thereby lowering the disadvantage that Malphite has. Obviously, he's not good at pulling off ganks.
Little predator Q ganks, you know.
Come in there
Feels
with that,
good, man.
roll the pizza at him. It's if you enjoy like me, just trying new things and trying to be a hipster in League because you've been playing for too long. I actually think Malphite jungle is
Not bad.
solid.
Yeah, rock solid. I think Fiddle is actually really strong in jungle. Has been for a while.
Yeah, has been.
But I don't know. It has never really gotten into pro, and I do think it's much harder to pull off a good Fiddle at pro level because it's so much about not being spotted and playing around vision and stuff. And people are way more sloppy about tracking where you could be in solo queue. So maybe that's kind of the difference there. But Jarvan did get some nerfs. His patches, like the patch barely changed his win rate though. Like when I was looking at some of the internal win rate type stuff, Maokai was like the hardest hit of anyone in the patch, and he went down and high elo, he's down in the 48s as far as win rate now. But like Jarvan was like not even half a percent or so, right? Like the win rate barely even changed. So some of the other things that I noticed that were like way stronger, it felt like Veigar I think is way stronger now. Like those changes seem pretty significant and moved his win rate a lot. And Senna as well. Senna not only support, but like I've been playing at some AD. Actually, it seems pretty decent as an AD again. Like Senna, I think is right back in there. So it's another one of those champions that could see some play because it did see a lot of play in the past, and it's something that I think it's more likely for pros to pick up something that gets buffed that used to be meta than it is for something like that's totally new to I think get moved into it.
That's why I'm like looking at these Cho'Gath like really small changes as like
The solo buffs.
yeah, the solo buff. But like people are playing a little bit more Scion. The Cho'Gath counter pick into that looked insane the couple times we've seen. I think they did it in LEC once a couple weeks ago as well. So like it's a champion that I just love watching because he's just this dumb giant dinosaur eating things.
The simplicity in watching a Cho'Gath.
He was one of the OG
Yeah.
champs as well. Like I remember playing him way back in the day. His Q ratio was insane. You just sit in the brush, knock people up in top lane, run forward and eat them. Like he's such a simple champ. I love him.
Continue to grow in size.
Yeah. Talk about the late game fantasy. Yeah.
I think there will be probably a lot more tanks because I mean the Malphite buffs. We've been seeing a lot of Jace. I mean, I just think Jace has been just absolutely
Overpicked,
garbage
yeah.
in LCS. This split, like I know, I think it was you on the cast that the historic was about 50%. I actually haven't been that much on the NAJ's hate train in the past. This split, I think it's like 1-7 or 1-8 or something though. And like
it was 1-8 before that game.
Okay, so 2-8.
Yeah.
It's been pretty garbage in almost every game. I feel like it's been picked. And if people are going to be playing it top at all, Malphite already was super good against it, and now Malphite got buffs. I think like that is a really good answer. I think Cho'Gath situation can be a good answer. Ornn as well as Scion are still right up there as really strong tank picks. So I think like we're going to see more of that. We're going to see less of some of the tank junglers as well, like some of the AP tanks.
Speak is sad.
Exactly, like Amumu and Maokai and stuff are worse. So if you're playing less tanks in jungle, you may be playing even more tanks top lane. And it felt like that was kind of the way things had been moving, except for a couple players, which were still kind of really on the carry train, like Fudge and whatnot. So that's been kind of interesting to me. Those feel like the biggest things I would say. For the most part in the patch, at least just in my random games I've been playing on live though, I've been seeing Ahri in like every single game.
Dude, if you give Ahri the littlest buff, everyone comes out of the woodwork to play her. I feel like she's always been one of the most
She's so
popular.
popular.
Yeah.
She's one of the highest pick rate champions in the game. For sure.
Always has been. So like as soon as you give her a little
You can
buff,
tell by number of skins.
yeah, people are just like, "Oh, is she good now? Can I play her now? Can I use this skin I bought or my 12 skins I bought?"
They're to be fair, also, I think they're really fun buffs with the ult, as well as making it more tanky, so you can go in a lot more. You know that is something that differentiates Ahri from a lot of the other mages that you have from mid lane. So even though it might become overwhelming, I'm happy to have some more flavors, basically, because then they also buff, like Orianna, which everyone's already has as a staple, and you can always have that kind of standard there. If Ahri starts to get played a lot, though, then maybe we'll also get to see some more counter picks, like Lissandra, I think, has been in a good state for counter picking a lot of these options for a bit. If Ahri starts to get more played, then maybe you get more Lissandra counter pick play. And that just seems fun to me. If we get, you've got multiple assassins / initiation mid lane champions, roaming possibilities. The future, I'm hoping, is going to be
Victor Ori Cass, baby. Here we come. Is your guy hit out of the meta? So you just slot the next one in, Cass. Whoop.
My question is, do you think that any of these changes have actually affected what to me has been the biggest plague on pro play? Bot lane. Yeah, and I don't really feel like Nami Lucian and Zeri Lulu has really been pushed out
effectively
here,
killed, yeah.
Right? Like there's not really anything that's like specifically targeting them. There's like Senna got stronger, Thresh got stronger. There are some changes like that, but like I don't really know that any of this stuff is going to actually shift that.
Yeah, so their idea for what they thought would do it is these are pretty big buffs to the tank support items, and then nerfing Spell Thieves and the Sickle as well. With that combined with the Rakan and Nautilus and Thresh buffs,
Alistar's got some more
is
too,
the idea.
Yeah.
Alistar buffs as well. That's the idea. I think that already Nautilus is a really good pick. So that one specifically, that and the Rakan, I think should have a good time trying to combat those areas. But really, it takes the pro players pushing themselves to reach outside and breaking that pattern. We saw in LEC finals, Samira got played. Samira's been in a very, very strong state so long that she's already getting nerfed on this patch, which is now getting introduced.
Yeah.
And effectively, everybody else has missed the window to jump on OP Samira train, because now she's receiving fairly substantial buffs. And the one Samira basically that was LEC finals, and it's like, well, and now we're into a new phase.
Hans didn't play any of the meta champs really all split, if I remember correctly. It was very little of Lucian, Zeri, and a lot more Sivir and
someone
Varus.
posted the stats.
Yeah.
He was one of the few that was completely countered to the.
Yeah, so I think the bot lane meta is more open than maybe the pros are letting on right now. And but to that point, like sometimes they just need that extra little slap down on their favorite picks to get them experimenting more.
Yeah, he had 0 games on Zeri and 1 game on Lucian. It was Varus, Draven,
Chad
were his 2 most played. So I mean, there are other examples of that as well. Like there's stuff that is kind of like obvious solo queue answers. Like I've always seen any Rengar player who plays Rengar loves playing into Elise. That has been something that has been popular in solo queue for a lot of years. It's very hard for Elise to win that 1v1, especially with the empowered W. If you use that on Cocoon, Elise almost always, it feels like, going to lose that 1v1. Blabber got to bring that out, so that was exciting.
That thing though, because you're not always going to have empowered W ready when you have Cocoon. It's really about being able to win the 1v1 and getting brush first. And if you have brush first, then you get to stomp the Elise. And I asked also a lot of the junglers, nobody else is scrimming Rengar. Yeah. Nobody's like practicing it.
I mean, it's a niche pick.
Rengar is a very individual pick. So you've got like Chad in challengers and Blabber, and it's like a pretty short
But
list.
I think the overall point though is like other people have their own things, whether it's Rengar or these AD carries or whatever it is. Like players
in LEC finals as well.
Yeah, people have the things that they're good at solo with his tanks, and just being able to branch out more, because you probably know the things more than your opponent. So when you break it out, it wasn't just that he played Rengar's. Cloud9 had a whole strategy around this early invade to push Elise into a split map topside, and they had a game plan for the pick, not just like, let me slam this solo queue champ. There we go.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, my point is just that there are a number of champions that I think already are strong that people like weren't going to either because of lack of comfort or maybe lack of practice or they just like, whatever it is. But we see examples of that, around the world. Mid Gragas is something that's obviously popping up. Faker played it, so then Niski started playing it. So like, people are doing that. But there's like, and Kled got played both mid and top in LEC finals from G2. Kled is actually really strong in a number of niche matchups. Can be really, really good. It's very good in the Jace, at least in solo queue, which is very popular. So there's a lot of these picks that I think can slot in if people are comfortable to go to it. And I think the more we see top teams have success with picks that are off the meta, the more people are willing to try to like move and adapt to it.
I think we should do as much as we can to like super hype up those moments for those players and celebrate them and like give them awards.
Give them the dopamine hit.
Exactly. So that they know there's a big reward. If I do pick some weird champ and I embrace this, everyone's gonna love me so much. Maybe if we really hammer that, then we can do our part to try and encourage more diversity because you get the advantage. Nobody else is used to playing against this.
We rig player of the week. Anytime someone plays a new champion, they automatically.
Even better, they pick a new champion. We can do like a little like Twitch chat thing. If it gets enough emotes farmed with this champ locked in, we bring some cake out during champ select, and they get to eat some cake before the game starts, or like some fried chicken, or like whatever they like. Yeah. Just something to give them a little like, ooh, I picked the good champ. Immediately Pavlov's dog, kind of the bell rings, some chicken comes out. Like I should pick more.
No, we should go big. We should give them like actual rewards. We should give them like LCS main channel will host your stream or something.
Whoever has the best pick of the week. Yeah,
we'll give them like a 60K, host or something like that afterwards because I know they like
speak my language.
Yeah.
I love rigging things. Like the giveaway. Wait.
Unlike the giveaway.
Unlike
which
the
is
completely
completely legal.
I am not associated with market anywhere.
We're a product. The three of us together joined legally.
We've already come so close to breaking the law this year. Let's
move on before I get us into bigger trouble. Want to get
in here again.
Into the teams now a little bit?
Sure. Yeah, we can jump forward.
All right, we're doing not quite a full-blown community question section or episode, but kind of.
A lot of questions.
A lot of questions in here this time. So we're going to start with Cloud9 with a question from Arsh asking, after the debut week of EMENES, has he cemented his case for being a starter, or is there still a chance of the Diplex rerun? Rerun.
I don't think you can say it's cemented at all. I mean, he had one pretty unimpressive game and one really good game. I know Jat did like a breakdown of his mistakes. I thought Jat was a lot more positive on it than I was. I thought he kind of gave him a pass on a number of different situations that I thought really kind of snowballed the game. Because when I think of that Victor game, I know Jat gave him a pass on when he got his flash force and said, oh, he's just walking to his team. But his team was on the other side of Dragon at bot lane, and he tried to walk in full vision of the other team through River on the opposite side while harassing the other mid laner. So he even knew he was spotted. And so to me, that was the most egregious part where he trolled, lost his flash, and that's the snowball that started everything else. Because then, they're gonna hard force on this flashless Victor and chain kill you, and then you can't play the game. So I thought he had one really bad game, one really good game. I don't think he cemented his case, but I think it's very encouraging that he had that big bounce back game, and I think people are gonna want to see more of him.
Yeah, I don't think it's possible. Well, if he came in, he smashed both games, he got pentakills and stuff like that, then I guess you could say cemented in 1 week. But it's very, very difficult to cement your case in 1 weekend of games regardless. That is definitely still wet cement. You could stick your foot in it or whatever. But
draw a little.
It's just not enough time to have full confidence, especially with someone.
It's no quick dry cement.
Exactly, especially with someone who is so controversial and has had so many teams that he's had to go through. The stat was like what 8, 9 in 4 years.
Yeah, 8 teams in 5 years.
Like basically. That is crazy. You're not going to have quick dry cement based on that history. So I did kind of for that individual play. I was more like, why are Cloud9 even trying to go to this dragon in any case? So I was also putting some weight on the comms. Who is calling for this? Why are they sitting in the back of this dragon pit? And then you see the nerves. There must be something yelling going on in comms, talking about this dragon.
Trying to be a team player.
And then you walk, right down through river. So yeah, I mean, I want to give him some more time.
Me too.
I would definitely say bringing back Diplex is not out of the conversation. I saw some tweets that were also along those lines that were like, Diplex is, doomed or whatever.
Oh, as soon as he got killed, I tweeted Diplex wouldn't have died there. No, I was just like out there stirring the pot. I think Treats was tweeting the same thing. Everyone was just like trying to kick up flames. Speaker had a tweet as well.
Literally photoshopped the chat log.
Why lose?
Why lose?
So good. But
or I guess it was an element editor or whatever it is.
Whatever,
In the internet
yeah.
browser, but same thing.
Get it right.
but I will say, we obviously it's not set in stone yet from like a team side thing. But in your own minds, like, do you think he's coming back, or do you think it's gonna? I think it's gonna, like, because I personally think it will say EMENES.
If I guessed right now, I would say EMENES stays.
Yeah, same.
If we're going purely off stage, then for sure I would say EMENES stays. But so many of his problems have been unstage related, right? So like if he's being a dick in scrims all week, then they might just not like him anymore, you know, and now you don't want to play with him. But if we're going purely off stage, I think his LeBlanc game was really exciting, and I think that Cloud9 would benefit from a more lane dominant mid laner, right?
Yep.
And that's not Diplex. So I think you should stay with this guy as long as he's not having problems that we aren't seeing.
Yeah, definitely agree. We got one from Broxa as well. I don't know
Oh,
if you've
boy.
ever heard of this guy.
He's
Used to be in North America.
He's so sweet and so handsome. He did such a good job on the LEC broadcast.
He definitely is. He also
He was all dressed up for finals.
he did a great job not showing any Team Liquid bias in this statement that he tweeted at us, where he says, Team Liquid will be the strongest LCS team going into Worlds.
I read that as he's punted spring already.
So we have
He did not put a period at the end of that, though. So I don't know why he's leaving it open. There's no punctuation here.
So we can attach this with another tweet, and then we can see which side of this are you on. So we got another one here. This one's from Phil Cam. He says, my hot take is that Summit is currently the worst top laner in the LCS. I could probably make a 5-minute compilation of him straight up running it down this split alone. So, I mean, how are you guys feeling about TL? Like, are you buying into what Brox is selling, that the work ethic and everything is going to pay off by summer? Or do they have too many obvious problems? Like, I don't know that they can fix the Summit issue by just playing more.
There's two things I have here. One is like the team's own emotional state. Like if I saw them kind of losing, but like clearly kind of like mentally all right with it, I don't think I'd be quite as concerned. But they looked sad a lot in recent weeks. Just very, very sad a lot of the time. I think even in their win over Immortals, they weren't like super juiced about it or anything. You know,
even in their dive episode that I did with them, they were not having a happy day.
No, they might have come from a rough scrim set or something.
It
so like
definitely appeared to be.
That concerns me long term for a team if you are like getting beaten down emotionally, even if you are putting in the work and like they get a lot of leads in their games. You can see the talent, that they throw it away. The second thing I'll say before I toss to Kobe is I was talking to Stix, or we were talking to Stix, like doing his Player of the Week interview. And one thing he pointed out was like, just because you speak the same language doesn't mean you're not going to have miscommunication errors. And it's like, shocker, I know, but like the whole, like we all speak Korean. It's like, so, but plenty of teams speak English in order to see the game differently, or like Kongdu sees the game differently. You know, like there's plenty of all Korean teams in the LCK who struggle because they don't view the game the same way. And that is kind of what feels like with this team, where one, they're rookies and some of their players just like have int moments in the mid to late game. And two, when those int moments happen, they just seem to completely blow up their strategy and fall apart. As soon as one thing goes bad, like the 100 Thieves game this weekend, as soon as a couple of their team fights didn't get kills, you just felt the game was over. Even though they were still up 5 or 6K, as soon as they stopped winning team fights, I was like, they lost this game.
Yeah. And everybody loves memeing. I love memeing on people and making fun of them as much as the next person. But there is something to this like big snowball of public opinion that takes some of these statements as fact. I would even refute the beginning of this second tweet that is talking about Summit being the worst top laner in the LCS. You know, that's kind of glossed over because it's like, haha, look at him. He ganks and gets ganked and dies all the time. He is still putting up the best across the board laning numbers for any top laner in the LCS. So as much as you want to critique him for getting ganked, and I love it, I think it's hilarious too. Bad teleports, bad team fight coordination, you know, losing out on side lanes and getting ganked all the time. His laning numbers are irrefutable. Rank 1 in experience difference at 10, gold difference at 10, CSD at 10, damage per minute for top laners. The man does some things really well, and at least, you know, continue to give him credit for that. And then I think the question is, can the team and the coaching staff fix the issue that we're looking at towards the mid and late game and actually retain strong laning phase while incorporating enemy jungle and working with Pioshik to avoid some of these problems?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Like, there's a lot there, obviously. I mean, some of it. So TL's team fighting is just bad, right? It's really bad.
Yeah.
The whole team, not just him.
The whole team. Their team fighting is really, really bad. partially I'm like, is it how much of it is draft, how much of it is just execution? I don't know, because I do feel like they keep going to these picks that just never work for them. They're winless with Lucian Nami and is by far their most played. They're 0-4 with Lucian
They
Nami.
stomp lane, then can't do anything.
Their only game that they won was the Lucian one with like Sona or something, where Nami got taken away.
It was against Immortals too, first round robin, I think.
But they're 0-4 with that. They get leads every time. They can never win with it. They are winless with Harry on Azir as well, which was their most played. Like these picks that just don't really seem that good. I'm so far on the Zeri Lulu side of the draft always, and it just feels like TL is always willing to just like handshake for Lucian Nami and just loses every game they do that. I mean, the biggest problem I just think is their team fighting is terrible, which speaks to communication problems. They're not on the same page. They don't know how to approach the game in the same way. But I would also say, I'm trying to think about like who is actually the worst top laner in the league. I actually don't think it's that hot of a take to say that it could be Summit. I think as far as like actual current performance, I'm not talking about talent level. Like clearly the guy is insanely talented, but who is actually performing the worst right now? He's an amazing laning phase, but like this is like which would you rather have? Would you rather have the guy who's even or a few CS behind but never dies, or the guy who's going to be always up CS but is going to die to every gank, right? And it feels like that is kind of him right now. Like he has had a couple really amazing games. I actually think his best game this split was in a loss, that one to 100 Thieves, where someday got the Fiora pick into him and got a bunch of ganks, and someone was still pounding him in the side lane the entire game. And then they ended up losing. Eventually, somebody got like 6 items and killed him one time or something in a team fight and whatever. But like he just outplayed Someday in the side lane the whole game. And you're like, this is what you want from Summit, right? But there's so many games where he's just running it down, and it's like, it's tough because he creates these leads, but he doesn't get anything from them. Like he is first across the board in all these laning stats, but then you look, he has more than double the deaths of Fudge, for example. He has like the most isolated deaths. He has like all these stats that are also he's the worst in too. And so it's tough because I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm really overlooking some other people, but I at least would say current performance, he's in the bottom, I don't know, couple, right? He's got to be in the bottom 3 or 4.
So is that a rhetorical question, or do you want an answer as far as which one would you want? Because if you remember last weekend, I was on the stance of I can fix him for toxic players with talent. I take the same stance with extremely talented lane phase players.
You can't fix him.
That have other problems. I can fix him.
No, he's unfixable. At this point, I don't believe it. He had the exact same problems on Cloud9, went to another league, had the exact same problems, then came back and has the exact same problems. It has been years of the exact same thing.
I haven't coached him though.
Yeah,
I mean, so like,
okay, when you quit casting, you go coach him. I'll give you a chance. I'll change my opinion.
There's environments I think he can do better in, but like he is who he is at this point, you know. So like, if Team Liquid saw the game the same way as him and like fought team fights the same way and played the same, like I think you could see a world where he like is that MVP that he was on Cloud9, but like the problems were always there. Just about how exposed they're getting or how insane the rest of the team is. In terms of other people who are struggling, like I think Licorice prior towards this weekend was having a really rough season.
Has been worse.
He over the course of the split, you could say he had maybe worse periods where at least Summit had lane phase while also struggling in team fights, whereas Licorice was quite bad for portions, but he was a lot better this weekend. And I think at least Licorice knows his role in the team. He's Jack Show Renekton. You know, he's like, I'm just here to be a fat ass and like be in the way for 6A and Gori who are insane. And like, I think in that sense, you can at least say that like Licorice is accomplishing his job more, whereas like Summit wants to be a carry and he's just not getting it done a lot of the time. There's a Scion game and things like that. I think Armit's been struggling as well. I think there's some other people who are in that contention.
Realistically, he's probably somewhere around like 7th or something. But like that seems crazy.
It's still not good.
It's not good for when he was MVP last time. I mean, what do you guys think about this? Because when they lost in playoffs, I was like, okay, you can't just like fix Summit's problems when he was on Cloud9, right? So why doesn't Blabber just path top every single game and just play to this guy and always have your jungler behind him and play 2v2? Because people are going to gank him because he's going to play like a crazy person. Do you think that should just be off the table because bot lane meta is too important? Or do you think it's better to just play to this guy's style and say, all right, Summit, you're the best 1v1 laner in the whole league in maybe any role. So Pioshik is just going to be behind you in a brush the whole game.
I think 100% do play to his style, play to the team that you have, play to the reality that you're living in. You're supposed to live in the present, not this ideal world, how everybody else is winning, especially if you're not able to win off of your bottom lane. So that doesn't even look like it's a viable path to victory here. You should go even farther than just pathing up there and ganking for him. You should always, when he goes to a side lane, trailing split push. Don't do 1-3-1.
Nocturne.
Never do 1-3-1. Always the other teleporter, the other solo lane. Harry, you should be on his butt every time. If he's split pushing, he's moving up, you're in that brush right behind him because someone will come. Someone will come try and gank him. You will have the advantage. You will get your kill. Then you can use your teleport to the other side, push out the map. That will at least work for one weekend.
Yeah.
They'll be like, oh my God.
Exactly. At least hit him with the surprise and change the narratives, change the way that people are trying to attack your team. Because right now there's no reason for people to change how they're playing versus Team Liquid. I really wanted to though add that when you were talking about the Jack Show Renekton, just wanted to put a little input there that made me so sad. Jack Show got changed to be even worse if you're not building health and resistances. And so when it's built on champions that aren't tanks, it makes me so
love
sad.
the Blade of the Rune King and the Jack Show build.
It makes
I loved
me
it.
so sad. That item used to be much better for bruisers, and that's why they made these changes to make it more of a tank item. And it's just so sad.
And you know what? I still loved it because I guess since we're kind of talking about Golden Guardians anyway.
At that point, I want to see a Radiant Virtue Renekton.
Do anyone want to entertain Brox's statement at all?
Well, I had said like maybe, but like the team looks kind of depresso too. So it's hard to believe that like 8 months or another 4 or 5 months from now, they're going to be fine.
At least he gave a long timeline. He said by Worlds, not by MSI.
Yeah. I guess we'll jump to Golden Guardians just because we were kind of talking about Licorice. Definitely not flaming him. I think he had a much better weekend this week.
He had an amazing weekend.
Yeah, he was really good. I think you can see the how good he can be when things are going well for him. I think he had a rough earlier start to the split. Yeah. The whole team kind of did, and all of them are rallying really hard now. They are on a 7-game win streak. Hottest team in the LCS by a mile, and they finally took down the teams that people were kind of like, oh, we haven't beaten anyone yet. Well, they just beat the 2 and 3 team. So now we have a question from Jazzy Reporter saying, what's the peak that you guys see for Golden Guardians? Can they finish this win streak all the way to an LCS title? I don't know if they mean like go undefeated until they win a title or just win a title. I'm leaning more towards the latter as a question.
It's just to win a title, I believe they can do that. I don't think they're going undefeated all the way through.
That seems crazy to me. That's why I'm like, I'm not even going to entertain that. Let's just talk about title.
That's way too far.
Yeah.
I thought someone was going to do the funny answer and be like, their peak is right now, this second.
Yeah. They're about to go 0-2.
All downhill. I mean, it's really cool because I think coming in this weekend, I still doubted that they could win against C9 and EG. I think most people did. And I was thinking...
I predicted them on Saturday. I did it.
Good job.
What voice is that?
A typical Golden Guardian fan. I don't know. This is how they talk in San Francisco.
That's how an arrow sounds or something.
Yeah, an arrow's like, hey there, brother, K-Kona.
Brother, we're going to win this weekend, brother. Anyway, and I think you have to change, like for me, it's a shift in perspective now from this is a pretty good team to like, oh, like maybe they could upset some people to now it's like, no, they have proven that they are a contender, and I have to kind of like change my mindset about them for really, I think the first time ever with Golden Guardians. It's funny to say that like a little bit more than halfway through a split, but this is probably the best Golden Guardians has ever been. They had the one split where they got 4th in playoffs, but even then, I never actually believed that they could be a title contender at any point during that split. It was kind of just like, oh, you guys did pretty darn well, better than I thought, right? I mean, let's be honest. Yeah. What's their average placement for Golden Guardians? It has to be like an 8 or 9 averaged out across their
I think that was the only year that they ever won a playoff series. I think that they had made playoffs like at 5th, 6th a couple times before, but they had never won a series until that summer run.
Maybe it's not as bad as 8 or 9 then, but they did, when they first came in, it was a bunch of 10s.
Well, that's the other thing too, is they've had some like last place finishes.
Yes. But either way, it's like, I think this is probably the best they have ever looked as an org. And even within the context of the split, FlyQuest's win streak ended at 8. If they win this next weekend, they surpass that. If they win both these games, which is doable, they would move to 9. And you have to also think about the fact that, again, their record is looking worse, but they didn't have their full starting roster, for the first week. And the second week, he literally, like, their mid laner had not scrimmed a single game with him. From what I heard, he got off a plane, went to sleep, and then came straight to the studio without
definitely not jet lagged. Definitely 100%.
Yeah. So it's like, I almost don't even count those. If they started with the same roster from the very beginning, they could easily have like 3 more wins or 2 more wins at the very least, right? So I think you have to look at them as a championship competitive team. They have, I believe, the best mid jungle in the league right now.
100% agree. Golden Guardians, championship contender, MSI contender.
Absolutely. I put out a tweet you saw about like the first pro, all pro like thing that we did.
I can't believe you've done this.
We put them out. We submitted them to be aired on Saturday morning waiting room or Thursday morning. Jesus, I still do this. It was supposed to be the day one, but then like we went long on something else. Then we aired them day two. And like before, Golden Guardians hadn't beaten two of the best teams in the league. And people knew that they were good, but probably not all pro, like straight up. So then we aired on Sunday morning, and then I tweeted it out, or Friday morning, Jesus. And I tweeted it out like last night, and people were like, how can you not have Gori and River as your first pro all team mid jungle? And it was like, you guys are saying this after 2 more days of games where they like smashed 2 of the best teams in the league. Like,
I mean, if you were a real analyst, you would have known that.
How many people would have put him there beforehand? Some people would, and fair credit to people like Dom who put River on his list and whatnot. But like, people are like, oh, it's so obvious, and it's like,
I do think you all like 3 or 4 of you had VicLa in there too. I think to me that was my like that was surprising to me that there was so much, and maybe it was just happened that all of you were like, oh, I think we're going to be risky and put VicLa. But I thought that one was the most wobbly because VicLa has
had some really bad games.
Yeah, he definitely had some stinkers.
That's what we said, though, in the segment, which, of course, no one watches. They just see the screenshot. But we said that, like, we put VicLa, but honestly, everyone who has an argument for number 1 also has a detractor against it. So we mentioned that VicLa and JoJo are maybe the most individually dominant, but also have these kind of int games. JoJo has his horrible moments. Maple's been really consistent, but doesn't quite have as much pop-off power. We mentioned Gori, but then said like he missed 4 games basically, so he doesn't quite have as much data. When we were compiling the list, he didn't have these 2 big wins yet. So it was like he had 5 good games so far, where other people had 9 basically. And so, we were saying like it's wide open in mid lane. A lot of it's just landed on VicLa, but we acknowledge that like that makes it look more dominant than it really is.
And I will say the one thing to play devil's advocate, I don't think Gori has had a single like bad game. Even the first weekend that he came in, when he lost both those, I actually thought he looked pretty good. His first game that he came in was that Azir game against Fly, where they were actually even for a while, and he picked up a couple kills, and you're like, maybe he could actually carry this game against Fly, who everyone was already really hot on. So that would be like my only argument for like, if you're saying he just didn't have enough games, so I couldn't consider him, then I think that's fair enough. If
he missed 2, and then the first 2 he played fine, but they lost. And you're saying that like he'll break in. He's going to get an all-pro vote probably if he keeps on this pace. It's just like, for us, it was like, well, VicLa's also just
it's not enough data, right? Like I can definitely respect that. But when I think about like, okay, JoJo probably has the best laning phase in mid lane, but he's had so many int games. VicLa as well. I just think VicLa's been getting more of a pass probably than he should because his team is really good, and people just tend to be like not really care if someone has a really bad part of the game. Like he had probably 3 or 4. I want to say somewhere in that ballpark of like kind of int games. Early in this play, he had a couple, and then recently he had the Aurelia game, which was really bad until very late in the game. He got 1 TP flank, and then they instantly won.
The Aurelia game was bad. I think he had like 1 bad Silas game, but I don't think he had that many. He had like a Yone game where like he died once or twice in Silent, but he was also smurfing that game.
I thought it was like 3. It was what I had in my head. But either way, he's had
whatever.
There were definitely a lot of mistakes, and that was one. That's why when I saw that graphic, and it is exactly what I thought, where you all landed on that, and then you had also reasonings.
So
but for it to be so green and so VicLa, this is
Emily said Maple.
That was
fair.
Emily said Maple. She's got the chops.
I was a little bit surprised by that.
What would you guys have put then if you couldn't do Gori? Let's say you're following the line of logic that most of us were just like, all right, we're not going to do Gori.
I would have actually put Gori.
You can't put Gori.
Well, I mean, that would have been who I put.
Well, then you can't put Gori.
Beyond that, I think it's actually really hard.
Yeah,
I probably would have been VicLa too, because I think if you're not going to put Gori, then I think everyone has had a lot of mistakes and things you can kind of point to and be like, oh, you messed up.
Well, I don't know why you're like so shocked at the Maple one, because that's what I would have put for sure.
Well, I'm not shocked.
Because the Talia pick alone, I feel like people should have started banning this really early on versus him, and he was doing so well in all of their games, and as much as in all the interviews and stuff. So it's like everyone's a role player, and then they know their role. And then I feel like
there's a couple more important people.
I felt like mid jungle was really doing a lot for TSM and getting them a lot of these wins that people did not expect.
Yeah. Did you think though that Maple was that good in his non-Talia games? Because I fully agree with the Talia games have been really good, but like I felt like he was pretty unimpactful in almost every other game.
He had a couple good Azir games, if I remember. He had Azir and Talia. the Cassidy game was this weekend or 2 weekends ago?
I think it was this weekend.
Oh, so it wouldn't have counted for the voting. I was pretty disappointed in his casting game. There were a number of times where I was like, you have to go in, buddy. And he would just hit the Scion. And it was just like this useless Cassidy who, like, there were a couple times where I'm like, you could have.
There was one time where he went into Flash and killed the support and 1-for-1. But like that game had a lot of problems for TSM. I think they were super out of their element as far as the structure.
It wasn't a straight front to back team fight.
Exactly. That was not the structure that they were
I also
used
thought
to.
in that casting game, this is kind of an aside, but like people overhype Cassidy in level 16 so much.
Dude, they do the clock and Twitch chat.
I feel like people who talk about the 16 as this auto win thing have never played Cassidy in their lives. Because like Cassidy is really strong. If you're already ahead and you can dive and whatever, then it's like you hit 16, all of a sudden you can dive in the backline, kill someone, and get out, right? It doesn't just make you 1v5 the whole fight, where it's like you still take so much damage. You're still a mage jumping into the backline, and 6 item people are hitting you. You instantly have to zone or get back out, right? So it's like
it's one of those things where 50% of the people going along with the hype and the memes and the clock and the worried face or whatever are doing it because they believe it,
and then the other joking.
And 50% are like doing it because it's fun to be part of the group that's making the memes. That's also the problem with even just like making basic sarcastic jokes, because you think in your head you're like, well, everyone's going to get this, right? This is so outlandish or so dumb. No one would think that I'm being serious right now. And then you get like 50% of the tweets are, what, this idiot really thinks that? And you're just like, my God.
I'm not even talking really about Twitch chat memes because I just think that's funny. But it's just one of those things I hear repeated so much. And anytime there's ever a cast with a casting game, like they're down like 18K. But the Caston's level 14. If he just gets those 2 more levels, it's surely going to erase this 20K gold lead.
He's honestly so much stronger in mid game when you get to just like hit 6 and start running around the map and try and make map plays and stuff.
He's also very weak into Mountain Soul.
yeah, that was a bit of a problem. He's definitely not an auto win con. We got way off topic from Golden Guardians. We're all believers, it sounds like, though. To circle back, they're going to get a bunch of all-pro votes probably, and they're really good.
Assuming they continue, I think they are for sure a championship threat. I mean, I would still, if I'm being realistic right now, if I could redo my power rankings for like, if I'm saying not even just end of split, but like who I think are going to be the best teams at the very end right now, I would probably have them 3. I think I would actually put them above EG. I think EG has looked really problematic, but I would still kind of have more belief in C9 and FlyQuest, because I just think they have had more impressive games to me against good competition. Maybe that makes me a little bit of a hater, but that is what it is. I will say Stix has been so fun to watch, because I really feel like this is one of those rare cases where it's like, at least from perception, I don't know if he will agree with this. I think we're actually going to try to maybe have him on, an interview or sometime in the future and talk to him about it. It would be fun. But it's like, I feel like his career almost was like his career trajectory, right? Where it's like he came in, it's MSI finals, it's all the 6A hype. He wins the championship in LCS. Everyone's so hot on him. And then it kind of just like petered off, and he went down into academy and became a coach and all this stuff. And then he came back and he worked his way up. But it's like, I feel like this is as hot as I've been on 6A since literally when he first came into the league. And that was 2016. This would be his 8th season in the LCS, right? So it's like your first season and your 8th are your peaks. Like that is so, I think, unique and interesting. And it's really exciting to see someone this late into their career have such a resurgence and show that he can play at such a high level. And it's not just like playing dumbed down stuff. He's playing mechanically really well. I think he's making very few mistakes. He's rarely ever dying. He's putting out good damage. Like he's kind of checking all the boxes.
Great segue, because I think a big part for that resurgence is a part that he had at the beginning of his career playing with Huhi on his team.
He's the Stix whisperer
as a mid laner, but it shows up in not only the interview with Stix, him talking about it, but also the one with Licorice, where he's talking about Huhi and the critical feedback that he gives being very necessary, even though it's kind of funny and flamey. And this transitions really well into I think one of the best questions that we got from the Twitter questions, which was kind of a dual parter from Quantum Ranger. Which team misses a player more from last split? Is it Evil Geniuses losing Impact? Huge. Or 100 Thieves missing Huhi, which I don't think a lot of people would think about, because 100 Thieves are missing everybody, basically, except for Closer. So it's hard to separate what individual pieces really mean the most. But I really want to touch on this and kind of pick at it and bring it out a little bit more of the impact that Huhi does have on all the teams that Huhi has been on. And especially with some of the insight of the players talking about what he also brings to the team strategy, to the communication, both in and out of game, and how that's grown over the years is kind of how we talk about impact and how much impact does that as well.
Are we including the current players on the team that they had left? So, for example, EG
difficult.
lost impact but got someday. Are we including the current people or not?
I say, yeah.
If you include them, I actually think that losing Huhi is arguably the bigger loss, because I think someday is obviously a different player than Impact, but like at least I think is still performing quite well individually and kind of filling those shoes. And this isn't a shot at Busio, but like Huhi is clearly someone who's underappreciated on the outside looking in. People were flaming him for making FBI look bad last split or whatever, people were talking
Even
about.
this split. I mean, his Lux game had some stuff.
Yeah, and like Huhi will have those kind of oopsie moments, but I think there's a lot of things he's probably doing that we don't give him credit for because you just can't see it. And I think that has probably hurt 100 Thieves more. Like I imagine that having him would help that team a lot. Whereas I'm not sure, maybe Impact going back to EG would fix most of their problems, but I don't know if that's gonna he's gonna mind control JoJo into like, you know what I mean? Like the problems that 100 Thieves are having feel a lot more vision related, and like how do we get to mid to late game, and like how do we do these things, and like making plays in the early and mid game, where I think Huhi's incredible at that. Like his roams mid have been so good for 100 Thieves and getting on the same page with his mid jungle, like that's stuff that I feel like 100 Thieves could use right now.
I'm such a Huhi fan, but I'm so on the other side of this discussion. I just feel like, to me, EG doesn't have anyone else that is like leading the shot calling in that same way that I think Impact could be, like from everything I've heard and seen of his comms. Whereas 100 Thieves has Doublefin and Bjergsen, who are very opinionated and I think can be those big voices. Whether or not they're doing it as well, or like that's
for Nexus.
That's arguable, right? To me, 100 Thieves' problem is their team fighting. I think their team fighting is absolutely abysmal. Their comms seem to be really, really bad. Maybe Huhi can fix that. I'm not sure, but it's like they're just not on the same page. Like their front line is so frequently engaging too far away from their back line, and whether that's the back line not listening and not following up, or the front line, not paying attention to where the back line is, doesn't really matter whose fault it is. Mm-hmm. But their team fighting is almost as bad as TL's, or just as bad as TL's. Like their team is really bad, I think. And to me, that seems like the biggest problem. EG, I honestly do kind of feel like a lot of their issues would actually just be fixed. I feel like they would have picked up at least a couple more wins and maybe even be first. Like if you swap Impact for Someday, I think you could actually argue that EG is in first place. I'm kind of a Someday hater, not because I don't think he's a good player. I think he's a great individual, but I think he brings so much less to the team than a player like Impact. Because I've just always felt throughout his career, Someday can create individual leads and be great in his isolated situations, but he's nowhere close to Impact's level in transitioning and having that kind of like instinct on how to win games. And that is what always kind of blows me away with Impact, is that Impact always has a huge effect on the game, whether he's behind, whether he's even, whether he's ahead. He knows how to maximize his position in the game and actually push it forward and just win, right? Like that's why he's won so many championships and been good on so many different teams. The guy just knows how to win. And I feel like EG are really lacking that. There's a lot of games where EG got way ahead and just didn't know how to close out the game. And I feel like if Impact was there instead of Someday, they would have won.
There's a lot of games also where I think it comes down to Mark's question. If Impact was on this team, would he be able to have an influence on JoJo? Because there's a lot of moments where you're going back through the game and a lot of the things leading up to the downfall is like, everyone's laughing. Ha ha, is JoJo doing crazy JoJo shit? But that lost the game. Like the Jace game where he tries to get a Jace knockback Q onto Jensen and he gets shuffled into the tower. His flash is blown. Then they pick him again going mid lane over and over. And you're just like, just lost the Dignitas. Holy. Like,
is this that much different though than JoJo last year? Because I feel like he had some of those in moments too, but maybe they just have worse map setups because they're not communicating. It's hard for me to say because I feel like JoJo has always had the JoJo moments, but a lot of the games also, even though he has been getting picked and doing dumb things, I don't think are solely attributed to him, right? Like in the first week they had like a game where they lost where they're like 9K up, when I'm like,
yeah, a lot of people
better
have
shot calling and close out that game, like I don't know.
That's why this question is so hard because we're arguing about things. where you have to be on the team with these
know.
players
Yeah.
to really know. And so it's weighing these intangibles.
It's fully opinion based.
But-
Yeah.
And I realize that I'm coming off as a big someday hater. I
You
think he's a
are.
really good player. I just don't think he's elite on the level that Impact is.
I think on the JoJo point, I think about his playoff run last year and how insane he was in mid to late game and like making plays to win a scene in the game compared to now, you know?
Yeah.
And like, it's just hard for me to be like, Impact was the difference between that JoJo and this one. You know, I'm like, you don't mind. Like,
No, it's not fully.
Yeah. So that's why for me, I think there are things that Impact would shore up for sure, I think, on EG. I just don't know. Because like you were saying, the 100 Thieves ones feel so vision related, like not like strategic vision related about like the things that they want to do and how they want to play the game. It doesn't feel like they're on the same page. EG is still an incredible early game team. Like Vulcan, Inspire, JoJo, and FBI are having great games up until this point where they start making oopsies. And that's why I think for me, it's like, you don't need Impact to do those things. They're already doing them.
Do you guys really believe though that like most of their losses are just like JoJo ints?
Not all of them. I think other people are inting too, for what it's worth. Or like they're not making good plays, but like they still have really, really strong things working for them. Whereas like I don't think 100 Thieves has very much working for them right now at all.
Yeah.
The coolest thing I think about this question, why I liked it so much though, is
Yeah.
that we all give Impact so much credit universally all the time across the board. I think it's really cool to raise Huhi up to that point, especially now with how well Golden Guardians are doing.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't talk much about Huhi, but I'm such a big Huhi fan, and every cannot be emphasized enough. Anytime you ever talk to any of his teammates or any of his coaches that he worked with, they have an opinion of him that is so much higher than the average like public opinion, because of all that work that he does, behind the scenes and stuff to really elevate teams and elevate players. So I do think it's exciting to see him doing so well, especially reunited with Stixay, a former teammate from back in the day. Okay, we have a question here kind of related to Dig. So this was a tweet that came out from Dardoc, and he tweeted out, "No disrespect to Tomo because he's a great prospect and young talent, but this is a side grade at best," referencing the swap for him and Spawn. Dig issues have little to nothing to do with Spawn, but scapegoat your youngest player. That's always a good play. And this was basically in response to Dignitas's announcement that they were going to be swapping out their AD.
Yeah, the announcement had some problems. I feel like any time that announcements around roster changes start citing stats, even though we do it a lot, like stats for me are like a shorthand to express an idea. Like I think a lot of times in the community it gets misunderstood that if we're like, oh, JoJo's a great laner, he's got this CSD and this 4% and this blah, 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 these solo kills and whatever. People assume that like that's all we're using and not like also our eyes, and that we're not just using these as shorthand to be like, here's some numbers to back up what I'm saying. But I also watched every single fucking game he's played. Like I know, like I'm watching these games. But when an org does that for justification around a roster swap, like of course they've watched all their games and they have all this stuff, but it just feels bad for an org to be like, yeah, well, because Tomo's got this CSD in Academy, like he's clearly the better option. I can understand why it can leave a bad taste,
Do
especially.
you want me to read what they said?
Sure, yeah, go for it.
So it says, Tomo has been dominating NACL with an average goal difference at 15 of 1,212, over 50% higher than second place. It's our view that Tomo's laning strengths have earned him an opportunity to play on the LCS roster.
Yeah, it's not egregious, but I think for a lot of pro players, it can feel like bad taste to hear that kind of reasoning. And I can see where Dardoc's coming from, where it's like this team has a ton of problems. It's not like slightly better laning out of Tomo or something is going to fix every issue. But a change was needed, and Spawn was the weakest link, and he was not benefiting from being in this environment. There's a number of reasons to make this change, and I think better wording could have supported that, because I do ultimately agree with the change that was made.
Yeah, I mean, the way I look at it is, Dark is 100% right. This is nowhere close to their only problem or anything like that. But again, I'm with you. They had to do something. They're losing every single game. They're looking horrible doing it. Spawn was having a terrible, terrible time. And I think it's not just beneficial for his team, but it's beneficial for Spawn and his career to not just be locked in this situation where he's doing so poorly, because we know that he had a successful career thus far in NACL. All of the Challenger and Academy guys who watch him have so much belief that he can be successful at the LCS level. It doesn't really matter why he is doing so badly in this specific environment, but the fact is he was doing horribly in this specific environment with Dignitas, and Dignitas was not doing well. They had to do something. They had to change something, and this is such an obvious piece to change. Hopefully it will be beneficial for Spawn. He can rebuild his confidence and find another opportunity in LCS. And I do think that with 1 weekend of games to go by, they looked a lot better with Tomo, and Tomo looked a lot more confident. It felt like in their win, he had way more impact than Spawn had in any of the games that I can remember in LCS. Their loss was obviously a horrible loss, but it was such a throwaway. That game was literally over at like 4 minutes when Santorin died to a Mumu, and then Renekton gets a double kill, and your Olaf Ghost Flash with no TP dies in the river, and then has to come back to lane against like, you know, a pickaxe double buffs Renekton or whatever.
Get a bounty before the wave even hit, you know?
Yeah. So it's like that game was such a throwaway game. Maybe Dignitas will just fall back into their own ways, but this gives them an opportunity to like change the environment and change the atmosphere, and hopefully it's positive for both Tomo and Spawn and for Dig as a whole.
Hot take. I said it before, but Dignitas will finish over Immortals.
They're 1 win behind them, so I don't know how hot that is.
Well,
Scalding.
You tell me. I don't know.
Lava temperature.
I put something in the microwave for like a random amount of time at a random power setting. Now you guys are telling me if it came out hot or not.
But it's one of those where like on the surface it's pretty warm, but there's a really like icy chunk still in the bottom here.
Yeah.
You need to like move it around, put it back in the microwave.
It's like a hot pocket, you know,
minutes,
the middle's frozen, but the outside is burning.
So it sounds hot for a second, but then once you think about it, you're like,
wait a second.
No,
they're right next to them.
Yeah,
it's whatever.
They're playing this weekend.
And part of that is because Immortals are on a 0-5, I believe, loss streak. So at least 0-5.
Yeah, they were 2-2.
According to the tweet by ThinkCard, which I just looked at,
check their match history.
it's at least 0-5.
They have lost 6 in a row.
Yikers.
At least. There you go.
Yeah. So they lost 3 in a row, then they won 2 games back to back, and then they lost 6 in a row. They beat Dignitas and CLG, so this would be their rematch against Dignitas. Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely possible that they can. I don't know how high they could get in the standings. I mean, you still kind of feel like with some of the early games that Dig has had, like Dig's early games, you compare that to their record is kind of crazy. Like how bad they are record-wise when they've actually had some really strong early games. Santorin still looks good in the early game, right? Like I feel like he's gotten a lot done in a lot of these games. And I think Jensen looks like a pretty strong carry. Armut seems to be able to create leads, but not necessarily like do a lot with the lead. And then their bot lane had kind of been problematic, but Dignitas had a number of games where it felt like they were in pretty good early positions and they just couldn't close. So maybe this will help them out.
Yeah, I feel like I watched Santorin make some of the same ganks that he makes over the years recently, but he was on Team Liquid or whatever instead. And it's like, yeah, he gets like this like level 3 flash on mid lane, gets the kill. He's like, great, my work here's done. It's like, no, you need like 6 more of those to win this game, you know? And it's like, he's never been like the like 1v9 jungler. So he's doing his thing, but it's just like the pieces aren't around him that he had in previous years. So like, I still think there's hope for this team though.
It's funny because I've also felt like Jensen has made these game-winning plays, and you look at the play early in the game and you say, well, you're going to need 6 more game-winning plays in order to win the actual game. That previous game-winning play is only about, you know.
That'll do you for the next 5 minutes.
That would have got you on cloud 9, but you're on Dig now.
I need a few more of those game winners.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like even in some of the early weeks, he had some good roam plays and stuff like that up towards top lane. The Jace games kind of stand out to me as ones where they got way ahead, where I think a couple of Jace games, our mode has been way up, but haven't really been able to clinch it. Okay, we got a couple more questions here. This one's going to come from Rafa. Rafa says, if you had to make a Clash team from the broadcast team, who are you drafting?
Well, I'm on it for sure.
Yeah.
Highest rated player. Come on.
Easy pick.
Well, you're the captain, so
I'm the captain.
You're gonna
now.
draft yourself.
Is this Rafa being like, pick me? Is this why he's brought it up? He's trying to get in the good graces.
So the problem with the casting team is we have an overload of junglers. We have junglers everywhere.
Yep.
Very few fill players. Azale is one of the few fill players.
I'm in there.
What's your philosophy? Would you rather, like, since you're the best jungler, clearly, would you take the role?
Yeah.
Or do you think because you're so good, you would slot yourself in as mid lane?
I play very few. I don't play autofill at all. My secondary is mid lane because mid lane is most contested usually, so I get it very infrequently.
So you pick it.
So I only have 2 champions that I keep up for mid lane. So I'm taking jungle.
Ari and
No, it's Katarina and Talon.
why would Why would you pick Katarina as like this? Like
Because they're the
backup-
most fun. That I've been playing Katarina since literally before season 1, when you could build AD Katarina and you can pentakill, you can win games. Same thing with Talon.
Still can divide Sunder.
As Talon, I just love invading enemy jungle, flipping over their red, and killing the jungler because I know that
Talon-
is soul crushing.
Talon, I understood. I was like, that immediately makes sense. It's like the jungler mid lane.
Yeah.
You know,
He
but,
also used to be a jungler not that long ago, right?
Yeah.
He was jungle for a
He's
while.
still a jungle. You can still jungle him.
yeah,
Yeah.
but
I was
Katarina,
thinking-
I was surprised. I thought you'd just take some easy mid lane
No.
thing. Put me support then, because that was my backup role.
Okay. Are we drafting Mark onto our team first?
No.
He's negotiating
whoa.
his role.
I hit diamond in season 4 as a support. All right.
I've not seen you play a game of SR.
I played a game. I was talking
He's
about.
Lilia. He played a Lilia
You can go
game.
check my match history. I won.
Okay.
But we have jungle filled already.
Yeah, jungle's filled.
Bro, just
Unless
put me
it's
on
top
Karma.
four or something.
I
Can we
play
draft
Karma.
Freak still? Because when we
No.
had Freak, it actually
No, broadcast team. He's on game balance team now.
we need our who's our AD? We
I mean, I could play AD, but it's my worst.
Yeah,
No,
that's
you're
what I'm
top.
saying.
You're going top. We need someone like we can actually leave up there and not interface off.
Yeah. See, I have confidence in some of my 1v1s. I died to a lot of ganks. I'm like a diamond summit, you know?
what I'm hearing right now is it doesn't matter who we draft on our Clash team.
looking
We're
bad.
We're screwed.
Yeah, it's looking bad.
I think you go mid. Flowers goes jungle. I go support.
Flowers doesn't play either though. Like the only people that
Yeah, but he at least had.
But you never lose your 10,000 Skarner games or whatever.
Yeah, what is he?
where is he gonna play? You're
What is he-
jungle.
No,
Mark is saying I go mid, Flowers is jungle.
Yeah.
You're top. He's support. Who's our
This sounds like a
AD
downgrade.
Emily says she plays AD carry. There you go.
Ooh, Azale was just saying Emily says she plays, but he has never played.
I've never
with
played a
her,
game
so.
with Emily. It doesn't mean that
And
she
neither
doesn't
have
play.
I.
What if
so we
she's
don't
just
know.
insane?
I've been playing with Rafa.
She's the most insane
So
Vayne
Rafa,
player.
I was playing games with Rafa last night, and he had this Gragas game where he was down. I think he had like 30 CS. The enemy Hecarim had like 120. He was up like 5 levels, and we actually won the game. And he made some actually cracked plays. So it was so funny because he was just so turbo far behind.
So that's why he sent this question.
Yeah, he's like, hey Azale, remember those games? Put
He
me on your team.
he had some pop-off moments. If I'm remembering the early game, I'm like, get me out. But if I'm remembering the late game, he scaled.
Okay.
Like I was playing Zillion, he had this one play that was actually pretty nice where I threw down a double bomb and a guy dashed out of it, and then he like Gragas body slammed the guy and then ulted him into my double bomb.
Oh shit!
And if it was
it on
intentional,
purpose?
that remains to be seen, right? He was like, Azale, do you see that in the chat? I was like, I saw it. I was like, I saw it.
I don't think you meant.
If you meant to do it, that was clean.
You're like, I also saw the first 15 minutes.
I saw the first 15 minutes of the game.
Okay, so then what? Sounds like he needs to go top and play this
I
Gragas top, and then Azale's in the bot lane with me. Hey,
No, I think we stick with Emily, Mark bottom lane.
Raz
but we
definitely
have
plays more than Mark.
okay.
Raz plays a lot.
Okay.
yeah, Raz actually might be the biggest game spammer.
Is it a Raz Emily lane?
Yeah, Raz Emily.
Ah, shit, I got
And
benched.
Rafa's
You can
our
be a
sub.
coach.
See, I play the most ARAM. Look at my ARAM history. I play a lot of ARAM.
All right, well, you guys can battle that. We'll have a tryout for
Mark's the
Yeah.
coach, Rafa's the sub, and that's our team. Okay,
Yep.
boom. Good question.
Other questions we have. We're kind of in the generic like for fun moment here. Where we're over the teams. We have one from Yamato Cannon actually. He said G2 versus FlyQuest. Tell me how best of 5 goes. I assume that this is an MSI. I just don't think G2 is even going to make it to the point where they can play FlyQuest in the best of 5.
Oh, he's got a FlyQuest shirt. Okay, that's perfect. All right, there we go. Question answered.
Clip it and
Yamato.
send it to him and then
Clip it,
reply to
ship
him.
it.
Yeah, quote
Send that
retweet
out
him.
to Yamato. I'm sure that all the LEC fans will have a completely reasonable discussion.
Yeah,
and
they're
agree
really
with
good
you.
about the joke. They say they love banter, and then this first time you do it, they're like, "I'm gonna kill you." Oh my God.
Oh my god. G2, I will say, was looking pretty good. They turbo stomped mad.
That was not a close series.
That was looking like some bad Clash matchmaking. That was Challenger team, ran up against our team.
I just love that they're drafts, and yeah, it takes until finals till they pull out the really fun stuff. But to me, some of the most fun times I've had watching League of Legends have been watching G2 in their heyday.
Yep.
With Pyke in every lane, using crazy drafts, causing LPL and LCK teams to have midlife crisis, rethinking everything they know about League of Legends. That stuff is sick. So when they're playing Kled mid, they're playing Samira. I'm all aboard. I'm all about it. So I hope, that sort of flavor. And when you have a successful team doing that, it encourages other teams to do that. So I'd say more power to them.
Bravo.
Hope they keep doing it. But I'm with my boy Mark here.
Yep, it'll be interesting to see. I'm excited to see how they do. I mean, Yike has been really fun to watch. Like as a new guy coming up on the team, he's been really good. Caps is obviously still smurfing. Hans is looking way better than he looked in NA. I'll say that much. Now he's back to Mickey Mouse region, just wins a title for free.
This is the hardest region in the world.
Yeah.
Faker was not kidding when he said it.
Yep.
All these people come over. Yoshik just won a world championship, can't get anything done in North America.
Done. Easy championship for Hansam in Europe.
Yeah, he gets clapped
up,
came and make worlds
Yep.
here, wins a championship there. I will say G2 also, they posted their scrim results, Romain did. The 76% win rate. It's just like, Jesus Christ.
They might be kind of good.
They might be good.
Might be a little
I'm a little
good.
worried maybe if we did play best of 5, but I won't admit it.
It's free. Prince is going to carry us. All right, we got another question here from Mazelcasts, or Mazel.
Yeah.
If you could give a way too early rookie of the split, who would it be and why?
Who are the candidates? Ayla, Jan,
Ayla.
Harry,
Jan, Harry, Tenacity,
Busio.
Spawn. What other rookies do we have?
Pull up the rosters and think about any. Not on
would
Golden
MNS
Guardians.
count?
EMENES will count probably by the time, because if
I
he
don't know if
plays
he
the rest,
counts because if he,
he'll play the whole second round robin.
yeah,
He's
but,
had other.
but he's played
other
in
pro
so many
leagues,
other
though.
regions.
Oh, right.
Count
He
as
might not
rookie?
count.
Yeah.
I also feel like Ayla can't count as a rookie. He literally won MVP in OS.
Well, also, I wouldn't give it to
Right?
Ayla even if he counted.
I know, but I'm just saying,
So.
like, even if you wanted to do like, he's gonna be by the end, right? Like, the man
Yeah.
won an MVP.
I'm leaning
Early.
towards. I know people have definitely, and Busio has definitely made some mistakes, in the Lux game and everything people are talking about. But I'm kind of leaning toward Busio right now.
Me too. Busio's my initial thought. I feel like Busio or Jan, I would say are the two that like immediately pop in my head. Maybe we're forgetting someone. Both have had their bad moments, but Busio I think has overall looked pretty darn good. Giannis had impressive laning phases, but haven't really gotten it done in team fights. But like that's also like a compositional and just kind of like whole team issue. But I would think it would be between those two guys probably right now.
Yeah, I think any rookie is going to have something you can kind of neg them on. And I think for me, it's between Busio and Jan. Jan's early game has been very good. And him and Corgi have smurfed a lot of their lanes. Yeah, they're playing aggro matchups, but they do well. His late game team fighting is not great, but he's a rookie. And there's no clear, like, this guy's insane, like JoJo had or something this split. I don't think there's like one clear standout.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe EMENES will get there, or like some of these second round robin guys. Maybe AO just plays Thresh every game and smurfs it. I don't know.
I don't think I'm giving
I don't
mine.
think they even count though. I don't think they would even be eligible.
Yeah, some of them have played in too many other regions. Same with like a Boogie is obviously not eligible. Gori's not eligible.
Yeah, these guys aren't eligible, I wouldn't think, because they've played too much time as pros, right?
EMENES had never played in a major region before, so that might count themselves.
All right, well, I'm getting bored with this. Next question is from Michael James. Are Prince, River, Gori, VicLa the best imports the LCS has ever had? I'm assuming like as a class, just this time period, because River's already been here for a while, and so this isn't even like imports imported in the same year or anything. This question seems kind of loose.
It is
Playing with facts.
So Prince, I think you can definitely argue is like potentially, as far as like peak of their career and stuff, he's like literally coming over here at the peak of his career, right? He came off, I think, probably his best year ever for sure. He's looking amazing, very young player. He got second team All Pro above Gumayushi. Yeah, he was below Ruler, but guess what? So is literally everyone in the world. Ruler's the best. No one really debates it, it feels like. But there was arguments that this guy was, I know in the LCK, people were making arguments that like this guy is not just second best in the LCK, but potentially like second best in the world, better than a lot of the LPL ADs. So I think as an import and where he came in, the only person that I could really kind of think of as a good comparison was like when Someday came over. I know when Someday came over, some people had him, or a lot of people had him as like top 3 top laners in the world in LCK when he was playing, and then he came over, so kind of feels a bit like that. River and Gori are playing amazing, but I don't know if you can put them above, like, can you put them above how Bjergsen has done in this league? Can you put them above how Jensen has done in this league? Like,
When I saw this question, I started thinking about, okay, well, who else do we count in the import class of OG Bjergsen when he first came over? Because that was massive. That was region changing. We've had a lot of those.
Sven.
And you mentioned Impact already. Who else do I get to include in like my Impact class, in my Bjergsen
Let's
class?
just say as individuals and not a class.
Well, so like even that is like it's so early to say. We were joking about this before the camera started rolling, but I was like,
This was a dead serious conversation.
dead serious,
Mark had
but definitely not
fire in his
joking.
eyes.
I said, Piglet's done better than all these guys so far. You know, like people meme him for mid-lit and all the things that happened later, but his first year with us, when I was coaching him, we got back-to-back thirds. We got first in the regular season one time. Like, we did pretty good.
So-
We got back-to-back thirds.
So here's
But so like people,
time.
all right, so here's the thing. People say shit.
Damn.
People say shit like that. But what did River do during his first year? He played dig and did jack shit,
So
swapped the
here's-
Golden Guardians, did nothing.
Here's my argument. I fully agree. Piglet accomplished more as far as like placements in his first year. The difference would be if you believe that these guys will go on to accomplish more than Piglet did, right? That would be the argument. That is where I would knock
The
you.
question says best imports also. So this is best player skill looking at the player, I feel like. If your argument is going to be
Piglet's not in the
placement,
conversation.
No, but I'm just saying, the first year that Piglet was here, people don't
it's in
remember.
the conversation. He's conversing.
I am trying to set the same time frame that they would have had this conversation during, because if you remember, Piglet actually came in and shit on everyone. Remember the whole double lift auto spacing meme from the playoff series where we gapped the shit out of him? Like, that came around because Piglet was so much better than
When
a
did
lot
he
of the
pick
people.
Ramus?
That was like
After?
That was
like
Academy.
That was like 2017
That was
Academy.
after he got
Fuck.
demoted
Yeah,
to
that's
Because I feel
Academy.
like that's when he came over.
Yeah.
Well, you got bad memory then, old man. That was 2 years later. But yeah, I think like from that perspective, you do it like people hindsight bias. You just tend to like you don't really remember the moment,
Yeah.
like time
Sure.
capsuled well. Because like I think Prince is going to be insane probably, but that's what it was for a period of time.
Yeah.
With Piglet as well. And it's like, well, what happens 2 years from now? Because if you're comparing Piglet 2 years at like the low point of his time as an import to Prince during the beginning when he's at his best, that's not really a fair comparison.
Well, you can't do career comparisons because Bjergsen just wins every single career comparison.
That's why I would agree. To be fair, when Bjergsen did come over, he dominated harder than VicLa did.
And he won 1 million championships.
And he won immediate MVPs, immediate championships. That's what you're comparing these guys to, is the kind of the point that I'm making, as well as like, even some of these guys like GBM came over and was hyped. Like Impact came over, joined, was it Energy or Tip was his first team? I can't remember.
I think it's Tip.
Yeah, but like him and Rush were like a tag team, and they were also getting like third place finishes.
Oh, man. Now I miss Rush.
Yeah, I'm like
Kind
Rush.
boy streaming.
damn.
He's
You
done
know,
military service.
People are popping off about River right now, but I'm like, didn't Rush do more than you in his first year than you did, River?
He was on a way better team, to be fair. It felt like.
Rush was true.
Dude,
Okay.
his bot lane.
But still, though, back to the Piglet argument, I don't ever remember being so as hyped about like this guy is the best in the league. I don't think there was ever that level of hype for.
No.
No, I
for
mean,
Piglet,
the
right?
point that you made about coming over in the prime of his career, Prince was still on the up and up.
Yep.
And Piglet was very much like just had a bad year in 2014. T1 did not make Worlds. That team blew up. A bunch of them came to NA. Like it was very, very different. But like we've had players who come over and dominate for a period of time. Summit last year came over and dominated. Alfari came over and dominated. Prince is dominating right now. But like, you got
to get it done long term.
It's a long-term thing. Like, okay, go to MSI, do something for us. Go to Worlds, do something for us. That's when you really break into best import conversation.
Or at least do something in the playoffs. I mean, like Alfari and Summit crushed regular season, then were kind of flops in playoffs, right? And that really changed how people looked at these guys.
Yeah, and that's my whole point right now. Is like it's very easy right now to be like, oh my god, 9-1. Like Huhi came over with Rainover, and they ran the regular season twice, flopped in playoffs.
But if I had to predict forward, if Prince stays here, I would say that he would end up being in that absolute upper echelon, just based on how truly incredible and solid this guy is. The way in which he's dominating, I feel like it feels so bulletproof. It doesn't feel like he's doing some crazy weird picks or like super aggressive stuff that he's getting away with. It just feels like he's playing the game the way it's meant to be played, which is why, even though you can't make the career arguments or anything like that, I could say if I can like put it in the time capsule, if Prince stayed here in 5 years, I feel like he would be, considered one of the greatest ever to play here.
Wet blanket. He's gonna get NA lifed. Start slamming burritos.
Impact said he's guarding against that for this team. It won't happen. I trust Impact.
No. I'm ultimately very hopeful for this group of guys. Golden Guardians as well look incredible right now, so I'm excited. But I just got to be the naysayer against the overhyped machine.
Nope, hype them up. They're going to win Worlds. All right, thanks, Mark.
You're right. My bad.
Doesn't matter. We're all going to die in the end. Don't care.
That's what I'm saying, man.
Why even do another
Nihilism's
episode?
cool.
This is our last episode, everyone. See ya.
Yep. Yeah, we'll be behind
Yeah,
bars.
guys, it's our last episode. I'll see you here next week.
I don't know if we can say this, but I think we're actually doing a player episode. I won't say who, but we're doing a player episode this Friday after the games. So we're gonna have another player episode coming for next week. But that would
You
be,
just cursed it.
Maybe I did.
And I will be there, and Mark won't be there.
Well, we never
And
know. We never
won't
know with
have
Kobe.
anything come up. It'll be fine.
We'll see. You
We'll
never
see who's
know.
there. I'll be there.
Yeah, one thing we know for sure is that they'll be there doing
I'll be
his
there.
job. I
And
don't know
Elias
about
will
us.
be there.
Us
The
too?
rest-
Who can say?
Who knows? The poor will be there too, maybe. All right.
Set it on fire.
That'll wrap it up for us for now. Remember, if you're watching us on YouTube, hit the subscribe button on YouTube so you don't miss an episode of The Dive. And if you want to get your Twitter questions featured on The Dive, use hashtag The Dive LOL. And you have to remember to use hashtag The Dive LOL giveaway to qualify to win 2K RP. LCS continues this Thursday. It's FlyQuest versus CLG at 2 p.m. Pacific, just like always.
Oh.
See you then.
That's why we wore these shirts. FlyQuest,
Oh, wow.
CLG, we're
We knew it was coming.
promo.
Yeah.